Live one more time from Tokyo, Japan. This is becoming a daily event for me, going live, guys. So say at the start of every single one of these videos that I go live about the coronavirus, because YouTube specifically stated that we will not get any kind of monetization from these corona videos. And it's a big thing for me to say that at the start of every video, and to make people understand that I chose to make these videos, these live videos from Tokyo, Japan about the coronavirus, because YouTube sent that message to say that we're not going to monetize these videos, they're not going to get you any kind of gain for your channel and things like that. And because of that, I said, you know what, well, I'm going to give my story to people out there, because it's not going to be about money, it's not going to be about profit, it's not going to be about what I can get out of this. It's just going to be me sharing the story of the coronavirus from Tokyo, Japan. And I really have two reasons for doing that. The two main reasons why I'm out here doing this early in the morning. Now you can see I've got the camera set up. I'm holding it, of course, so that let me see. There's my finger. There's Sky Tree right there, Tokyo Sky Tree. So you know that I'm very central to Tokyo, Japan. So this is an authentic, shall we say, look at the virus in Tokyo, Japan. It's not me out in some suburb somewhere or in some field or something like that. And also I do it live because I really want to give people a perspective on the city itself and what really is happening. So over my shoulder here, you can see a few people sort of walking around and going about their daily lives and things like that. And that's really important to me. Is the two things I think I'll be able to do with these live videos is one, give people an authentic look at what's happening in Tokyo, Japan right now, a live look into Japan as we battle with the coronavirus. And the other thing is to create almost like a log or a diary, so that people will be able to see over time, because I'll do this every day, and people will be able to see over time what's going to happen with the coronavirus here. And I think it's probably going to get worse, to be honest, but right now the streets are not empty. People are not sort of hiding away. Here's another reason why I like to go live now. I'm facing into the morning sun, so I'm going to try and use my camera to block the morning sun so I can see the screen. Looking at the sun in the morning is not a good idea. How do I do this? I want to show you right behind me here. There's maybe if I duck out the way. There's a couple of guys there above my head, perhaps, doing their morning Tai Chi, their morning routine. So you've got people out in the park doing their morning routine. What's different about today, which I've not seen before, now it's 7:30 a.m. in the morning here, and it's about 8 degrees, and people are still out and about doing their daily life stuff. There's a guy just behind me here coming into shot. You can see just going out for his morning walk sort of thing. And then if I pan around this way, you'll see over my right shoulder here a guy out for his morning run. Did we see him already, or is he? It's really hard to do this when you're looking into the morning sun. Where'd he go? There he is, just above my shoulder there, guy out for his morning run. But the thing that I've seen this morning that I hadn't seen before, the new thing that I saw was, I hadn't seen at this time in the morning so many kids out and about. But I would say I've seen maybe 5 kids out and about this morning, which is unusual for this time of the morning. They would be at home getting ready for school. They'd be at home, you know, prepping their daily lives, getting their bag ready, having their breakfast and stuff like that. But because they don't have school for not preschool, elementary school, junior high school and high school, because that's been cancelled here, you've got these kids who now have things that they need to be doing. And of course what they're doing is they're going out into society and they're going out and doing things. So all you've done is transplanted the challenge, shall we say, from the classroom out into society at large. So it's one of the things we'll talk about in today's video, is what's going on with the schools, not just here in Japan but also worldwide. I'd like to know what's going on worldwide. The last few days that we've done these lives, we've had people from Guatemala, Morocco, Sweden, Scotland, the USA, of course Japan. We've had a lot of people coming in from all over the world with their perspectives. Some people say that, you know, the media's not all that interested in their countries, and they're just like, yeah, there's yeah, we're worried about the coronavirus, but whatever sort of thing. But other people are saying like there's kind of panic in their countries. A guy in yesterday's live stream was saying I should get out of here and get home sort of thing, back to Scotland. But I was like, where would I go? I mean, you're not gonna outrun a virus, as it were. So although Scotland is a very remote place, so even a virus might run away. The Romans did. The Romans ran away, so maybe a virus would too. And I like to shoot the videos with, there you go, with Skytree in the background sort of thing. So so my update from Japan for today about what's going on here is this is day 2 of the school closures. So the schools are all closed across the country for elementary school, junior high school and high school. And that's kind of controversial because they're not closed for preschools. So anybody under the age of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that kind of ages, preschools or play groups or nurseries or kindergartens, any of those sort of compulsory education age kids, their schools are not closed. And there was a big thing on the news yesterday about whether or not that puts younger kids at risk. And one of the things I've said all along about this virus and all along about the measures that we're taking here in Japan and around the rest of the world to stop the flow of this virus is that what we're doing is we're protecting the vulnerable and we're protecting the old, because this virus particularly targets people who already have pre-existing conditions, and it particularly targets older people. I saw a statistic yesterday on the news that 20%, more than 20% of 80-year-olds and above who catch the coronavirus die from it. So that's 1 in 5 people who catch the coronavirus at the age of 80 and above die from it. So they're very, very vulnerable to this disease. And then people with pre-existing conditions, people with heart conditions or lung conditions and things like that are vulnerable to it. So in shutting down the schools, we're not protecting the kids themselves, as far as I'm aware. It was all over the news yesterday that teenagers, 20 years old and 30 years old, are not particularly at risk from this coronavirus. But what we're doing is we're trying to protect the people who are, and that's people of a certain age demographic, and also people who are vulnerable already because of pre-existing health conditions. So, and I've said that all along, that I don't see the coronavirus as a particularly dangerous virus. A cough and a fever, in most cases, is not a particularly dangerous virus. But what it does do is it preys on people with compromised immune systems and people who cannot fend for themselves and things like that. So, so that's kind of the latest news from the government and from the media here in Japan. It's all about trying to get a better measured response to this situation, not get an inflamed reaction. We talk about that in my work a lot, the difference between a reaction and a response, and what you've had over the last few months really across the world is a reaction to this instead of a response. And I think they're starting to move into that response sort of level thing here in Tokyo, Japan, where they're responding to it instead of reacting to it, and they're saying, right, what do we need to do to manage this, rather than just sort of panicking and making some pretty random decisions. Let's be honest about it. So now there are a few places around the world that do worry me though, and this thing could kick off and get quite big quite fast. And I noticed a real spike in the situation in North America, specifically the United States, and specifically in terms of number of deaths. There have been quite a few people who have passed away in America in the last 24 hours, I think 4 in total, but they're centered around a center for old age people, like old age care and stuff like that. So they definitely hit that demographic of the 80 years old and above who are vulnerable to this, and they also have pre-existing conditions and things because of their age and stuff like that. So, but it is a spike in Washington State where you're seeing the number of cases and the number of deaths sort of really ramp it up. But here in Japan it's not so much the case. I do this as much as I can each morning. I know I've got the sun behind me here, the rising sun, but this here is the Sumidagawa River, and that there is a toll road or a highway, and I like to show that in the mornings because you can see the traffic on it and you can see people going about their daily routines. And I want to put down these markers. I do it every day because it will give us a sort of measure every day of, you know, how much traffic is up there on the highway, and if that kind of gets lower or reduces, or how many people are in the park for their daily morning routines and stuff like that, like this guy behind me here, and then there's another chap coming up behind me just now there. Oh, and there's another person down there. There. So if, you know, the number of people, if anything is going up, the number of people out here in the park at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, I would say is actually going up rather than going down. But we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll see if people start to sort of stay home more often, and they don't come out into parks and into the streets and go out into life and things like that as much as they are doing right now, because that might be a good marker to tell us how things are going. And I will reiterate just now about that, about why I'm doing this, why I'm making these videos. It's all to do with the fact that Hiking Deep, what's up? I was just saying, Hiking, about the fact that we don't get any kickback from YouTube on these videos, and the purpose of them is not to generate anything for the channel. It's more to do with sharing the story of Tokyo, Japan, which today is very calm, very beautiful day. There doesn't seem to be too much going on in Tokyo, Japan. There's not many, there's not much in the media today. Yesterday I was talking about how the media seems to be a lot more toned down these days than the last few days. However, I understand in the States things are a little bit different. I'd love to know from you guys what it's like in America right now, if the media's grabbed a hold of this, especially with what's going on in Washington State, where there have been a few deaths in the last 24 hours, and if the media are really like sensationalizing this or not, because I think that's the problem that Japan had, is that they really went after it, and then they couldn't walk back from it because the media were too inflamed about it and too reactionary about it. So no coronavirus in Arkansas in the States, so and long may that continue. So I think what they're doing right now, though, internationally and nationally, what they're doing right now is they're trying to race the virus. They're trying to contain it until we get to the warmer weather. Thanks for doing this. We plan to travel to Japan on 25th of March. Good to see this update every day. I'm happy to do this. 25th of March. Let's see, that will probably be right in the middle of the cherry blossom season, which will be nice for you guys. The media are trying to make people panic, but I am not buying. No, they surely will. I'm sure advertisers will get a lot of money out of the ratings and the viewer boost that people will have if the media stoke it up and sort of fire it up. But that's one of the reasons why I like to go live instead of doing this as a video from my home, or doing a video and then editing it and things like that, because you get to see the real situation here. Let me turn around so you can see on my right here the person on the bicycle there off doing her thing, and then on my left, can we see that person there somewhere? I'm not sure where. You can see the person walking her dog. People are not that panicky about it. So let me just tap the live text thing, because I didn't see what somebody just wrote there. Live chat. What did they write? News, if it bleeds, it leads. Absolutely, and right now, I know this isn't a zombie apocalypse with blood everywhere, but metaphorically this thing's bleeding hard, and it's full on over the news, I'm sure. So but American media, from the external perspective, this is just me on the outside, not the internal perspective, but American media to me is half entertainment and half facts, and they seem to blow it up, and on all the kind of graphics and the visuals and stuff. I'm sure there'll be like war on the virus or something like that, that'll be in the media and things like that. So but that's I really kind of wanted to do these things live from the park, just to give people that perspective. And because the schools are closed down, it means that there's a lot more kids in the park. Now, one of the things, I've done this 2 out of 3 days so far. Today's the 4th day that I've been able to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stand over here, and just behind me down here you can see a father and his son playing catch, and they've been there 3 days now, 3 out of the 4 days that I've done this, and they're another measure. Like, if those guys aren't playing catch first thing in the morning, then we'll know that something's wrong and that things aren't going as well as Japan would hope that we would believe. So, but there's definitely been a downturn in the media here. The media isn't so crazy for the virus right now. It's not the panic isn't there that was there the last few days, and the last few months, really. And I talked about the Diamond Princess ship. So as soon as a few people die over here, the church will start running with it. I'd forgotten about that angle. But I think in Washington State, I'm right in saying 4 people have passed away from this so far, and particularly around a nursing home where people are vulnerable to this. It's a difficult thing to manage for older people and people with pre-existing conditions. So but yeah, they'll just grab a hold of it, and everybody will try and sort of, like, inflame the situation and things like that. It's interesting that it should come right in the middle of the Democratic primary season. We'll see what that does there. If it runs into the full presidential season, that would be interesting as well. I'm sure both parties will try and milk it for whatever they can, which is kind of disappointing really, because people's lives are at risk. So we should really focus on that issue. But right now in Japan, it's really all about containment. The problem with Japan as well is that the numbers are a bit skewed because of that ship that's docked down in Yokohama Harbour, which is, it's an American registered British built ship with like 70 nationalities on it or something like that. So it's hard to say what that ship means to the statistics in Japan. At the moment in Japan, there's something like 200 confirmed cases, and I think maybe 10 deaths or something like that. But then when you add the cruise ship in there, the cruise ship has like 600-700 cases on it, and then a few people have passed away from that cruise ship as well. So the numbers are a little bit skewed because of the ship in the harbour down there, which, to be honest, they didn't do a very good job of. They did a very poor job of managing that ship. You've got a ship with like 4,000 people on it and a couple of cases, but they managed to let that they managed to, I'll see you in a bit, Hike. And I don't know if I can call you Hike, it's like a first name basis. Connor Cedar Andrews, thank you for the daily live streams. It's quite helpful. We'll hopefully be coming to Tokyo next week. It's funny, another guy in the live stream was saying that they'll be here on the 25th of March. A guy from Scotland, I think he has arrived today, and he was telling me that they're on their way, and he was asking me about shops and stores and restaurants and things like that. What's it like with shops and stores and restaurants? But they're mostly still open and things like that, but very quiet. There's not so many people out there. And one of the measures that I'm using to track this thing, I talked already about people in the park, and we've got people out walking their dogs and playing catch and stuff like that. I also talked about the highway here and how the highway behind me here, and you can see the traffic running along the highway there, is a good measure. But another measure is supplies in stores. At the moment, there hasn't been a run on the supermarkets. You know what I mean? There hasn't been a crazy sort of like, we're heading for the apocalypse, let's stock up kind of thing, except on three particular things. And those three particular things started with medical supplies like masks and antiseptics and things like that, alcohol sprays. And they ran out very, very quickly, and people really price gouged them on places like Amazon. Now, I have to give a shout out to the basketball community, because when Kobe Bryant died, a lot of the resellers online who resell shoes and memorabilia and stuff, they froze their prices because they knew there'd be a spike and people would just take advantage of the situation. And again, it's something that I don't truck with, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, is because YouTube said we will not get monetized for these videos, and that gave me the confidence to actually go ahead and do these without worrying about, effectively clickbait or price gouging. And the basketball community pretty much shut down the reselling market and things like that after Kobe Bryant died, and they did not use that as an opportunity to make a quick buck. But that's not the case here in Japan with coronavirus. The dollar store masks go on, online you can buy a dollar store mask for like $15 or $16. That's a 1,600% markup on its actual price. I don't know what the cost of producing it was, so the massive markup on the price of that. So that's one thing that ran out very, very quickly, was the medical supplies, things like masks and alcohol wipes and sprays and things like that. The second thing to go was toilet paper. That toilet paper is running a bit low. I don't think we're in a state where you walk into a store and the shelves are completely empty, but it's harder to get your hands on toilet paper today than it has been for a while. And then the third thing to go was rice. Apparently rice is getting a bit harder to get your hands on, so but that's a good measure if we see a trajectory from that. If then something else starts to run out, if wheat products, like breads and stuff like that, start to run out, or if if you see the shelves starting to sort of empty, canned products, if people stock up on canned products because they're worried about the long-term effects of this, that would be another good measure. But right now, you know, the main measures, the number of people outside, there's like, I don't know how many of these people behind me here you can see, but there's, you know, 4 or 5 people, welcome back, Hike, there's 4 or 5 people behind me here just going about their daily lives, and that's one measure. Another measure is the traffic. I often go down here I'm standing on top of a tunnel in a park, and I'll give you a shot of where the tunnel exits onto the road behind me like this. So there's the end of the tunnel there, and there's like the intersection there with trucks and cars and stuff like that right there, with trucks and cars moving around and things. So the number of people in the park, not reduced, if anything, increasing. There's a guy to my right just now out for his morning jog. The number of cars on the highway still seem to be trucking along, pun intended. Food and things on the shelves seem to still be there kind of in their regular amounts and things like that. So so some of the main kind of ways to track what effect this is having on real life in Japan and are kind of not showing that much of a change. So has there been any news of infections, deaths since implementing the closure of schools? Well, the schools closed yesterday for the first time, so the effect of that really won't be felt for a while. And whether or not that does anything to slow this down or speed it up, I'm assuming that what's going to happen is that people are going to require daycare because people who work when their kids are at school now have to find something for their kids to do. So you're going to have people putting their kids in a less safe environment than they would be at school. School is a contained environment with like professionals and healthcare and things like that, healthcare professionals, nurses and cleaners and things. But if that's not an option anymore, then that becomes an issue that people have to think about, and you'll end up putting kids into situations where they aren't as safe and they aren't as healthy. And the other thing is about the schools, and this is kind of important, as I was saying it earlier in the video, is that preschools and young schools and things like that are not closed, and to be honest, young kids are the best at transmitting germs and diseases and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, young kids are the ones who are touching each other and picking their noses and sneezing and wiping it on their sleeves and things like that. You know, so not closing the preschools and the young education sort of part of this is maybe a different, a questionable choice. Let's put it that way. So I saw a comment just now while I was talking in the news feed about that there's a case in Florida. One of the things about America that interests me and that worries me, to be honest, to be frank, I don't mean to like to what's the word, kind of be reactionary about this, but it's the number of cases in the States where people are not connected to somewhere overseas. So you don't have like a guy who came back from China getting sick, or you don't have somebody whose uncle just visited Italy getting sick or something like that. It's people who are unconnected to places where there is concern, and then they've gotten sick. So that's a bit of a worry, because what that means is it came into the country kind of undetected and then spread out a little bit before getting detected and people realizing that it was there. So I think in the case of America, you're definitely going to see the statistics going up quite high. So if this continues more than the death toll, this will cause stress in the global. It will. They're already talking about halving the projections for the global economy, that they're going to lose 50% of the planned growth to the global economy right now. So but you know, I thought maybe what I could do is come around here, do this with that's a plum blossom tree, I think, not a cherry blossom tree. The cherry blossoms blossom in about a month's time and they're white, whereas this, I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, this is pink. But I'll go down the stairs a little bit because the sun's rising right over there. It's 7 o'clock. What time is it now? It's 7:55 in the morning. I'm gonna have to get off to work in a couple of minutes time. So correct, we're starting to see cases without a common link, exactly. So and that's the concern for people. Do you personally feel safe being in Tokyo right now? I do. I'll be getting on a train in about 10 minutes time, and Tokyo trains aren't exactly known for being spacious and sort of relaxing things to be on. Anything changed in Tokyo today? The major things to change out here in Tokyo today is that they're giving advice about young people protecting old people in a way, so that what they're basically saying is that this isn't a threat to young people, this is a threat to old people. So the young people need to kind of take measures like not going to school and not going out to live shows and things like that. It's a change in the narrative is what they'd call that. That they've changed the narrative from being a like everybody panic to sort of like, okay, you know, it's not as bad as we thought. You know, the people in their teens and their 20s and 30s are not actually all at risk from this. But people in their 80s and people with pre-existing conditions are, so we have to take measures to protect them. And I think what we're actually doing in a significant way is we're protecting places like Africa and protecting places like South America and places like that, where they don't have the healthcare and they don't have the infrastructure to deal with a massive kind of influx of sick people. Their healthcare will quickly buckle under the number of people coming into their hospitals and things like that, especially if healthcare professionals start getting sick. So I don't see what we're doing here in Tokyo, Japan. It's literally impossible to get hand sanitizer in Glasgow now. Yeah, absolutely. Just about anywhere in the world, really. So but you know what you should do, Starbucks, and I'll come back to what I was just saying about Iran and places like that in a minute. But what you need to do, I think, you know, yes, it's literally impossible to get your hands on hand sanitizer, pun intended, right now. But what you need to do is think of the next thing. What's the next thing that's going to run out? You know what I mean? It's like it's too late to catch that sanitizer thing. So masks in Australia are already in short supply because of the bushfires too, right? Because of the it's not pollution, but the dirty air, the smoky air, which people would have been trying to avoid at all possible costs. But yeah, you need to. It's too late to sort of say, "Ah, oh, dang it, we missed the boat on the masks thing." You know, we didn't stock up in time. Instead, we need to be thinking about what's the next step, what's the next thing that's going to run out and stuff like that. So and what can we do to avoid that? So because you know, like I said, here it was I don't know if this will help you guys. Actually, maybe this will help. Hey, Mo Gaines, maybe it will help you guys. The first thing to go here was sanitary things like alcohol sprays and masks and things like that. The second thing to go was rice. So whatever the staple food is of your country that, you know, people go to as their main source of nutrition, whether it's like wheat-based things like breads and things like that, or here it's rice. In other places it's maybe more, let me think, wheat, rice. Is there anything else? But that's what went here second. So, you know, keep an eye on that, and wherever you are, maybe in Glasgow's Bucky. Latest Gospel will be the next big seller, so and TP. Toilet paper is in short supply in Italy, apparently. Yes, toilet paper was the second thing or the third thing here. Toilet paper was second. So it's first it was sanitary supplies and things like that, like the alcohol wipes. Second it was toilet paper, and third it was rice. So toilet paper in Glasgow, if that hasn't already started to be in short supply. I saw two terrible things on the news this morning. I didn't like either of them. One of them was somebody shot a sort of secret video on the train of like some guy berating some woman for coughing. So there's a train traveling around Tokyo, whatever, people going to work or going to shopping or whatever. And this guy just really hammering this woman for coughing. You're coughing on this train. He says, go to the next carriage. Like, that, what? That isn't even a solution. Go to the next carriage. Go, even if she did have coronavirus, go infect somebody else. Don't infect me. It's an odd way to deal with the situation. But the other thing is, coughing's not that big a deal. Yeah, Cedar. It's gonna. That's the thing, is you got to try and get ahead of these things. It's a bit like. Let me think. There's things that I kind of compared it to in the past where you're not ahead of it. And you're thinking, oh dang it, I wish I'd thought about sanitary supplies a couple of weeks ago. We'll start that thinking process right now. The wind's picking up. I don't know how that's playing with the audio, but start that process right now, that you're thinking about, right, what's the next step? what's the next thing that's going to be in short supply? And here's a major one that I think that you guys need to get going now. I know this because I was here for the major earthquake in 2011, and there are potentially some similarities between that earthquake and the fallout from it, and then this situation here. Gasoline. Fuel, that was a big deal in 2011. I wouldn't mind betting if you take, for example, Iran in the Middle East. It's a really good example that I hadn't actually thought of until now. But if you take Iran in the Middle East and you say, right, they're going to have to take these steps that we have for protecting their citizens, shutting down cities, reducing the number of people that are out and about, shutting down schools and stuff like that. That equals people not working in oil. That equals the guy that presses the button at the oil refinery not there that day. That equals lower oil production, and that means gas prices going up and a run on the gas stations and lines and queues and things like that. So that might be the next thing to go, or this whole thing might just evaporate. And the warm weather kicks in, the virus dies, and everybody goes back to normal and looks for the next thing. So my wife and I will be in good shape for about, see, you guys, like, you don't need to do anything. Hiking Deep does not need to do a dang thing, because you guys have got it all stocked up. I bet you $1 million that you've got a shed and you could just open it up, and it's like you're the James Bond of survival. You guys have absolutely, if anybody watching this has not been over to Hiking Deep's channel, go over there to find out how to survive this, because they'll teach you how to make like a spaceship out of a toothpick. They'll teach you how to, like cook a grilled chicken using bark from a tree and a stone out of the river. It's like you guys have absolutely nothing to worry about. If anybody's gonna, just sit back and watch this whole thing from the comfort of their armchairs and just laugh at the rest of us running around like headless chickens, it's you guys. So, but yeah, I mean, try to be proactive, guys. Try to think ahead of the curve. Try to be like, right, what's the next step? Where's the next kind of challenge coming in? What's the next thing to run out? Instead of being that kind of reflective and saying, yes, sir, you're absolutely right, man. You did. Oh dang it, I wish we'd done this, and sort of regretting something that you didn't do. Think forward and be like, right, well, okay, I missed the boat on that one, but what's the next thing? And that's a sort of style of thinking that's it's not all that common out there. A lot of people will just reflect on what they didn't do well, but then the next step of saying, so what will I do better next time, isn't that common out there. So yeah, I mean, at the moment though, I really do feel like we're in this holding pattern. We're sort of just sitting still, wondering what's going to happen next. There's been no major developments here in Japan, but there equally haven't been any, changes for the better, as it were. The cases haven't suddenly stopped coming in. They're coming in sort of in drips, really. Korea and Iran are a bit more of a worry, so playing the waiting game exactly and see where this goes. And I said it a couple of days ago in one of my videos that one of my main concerns is that the pressure it will put on the healthcare system for people is one of the major things. I don't think people are worried about this being a sickness to worry about, to be honest. And the world says we'll still calmly waiting. Absolutely, you guys have. I imagine you guys have this enormous complex, and it's full of just like caves and like hidden away lockers and things like that. It's like, if it's a zombie apocalypse, go to locker 4. If it's like a viral apocalypse, go to locker 5. If it's like religious nut apocalypse, go to locker 7. And you've got it all laid out and ready to go. So but yeah, I mean, the situation it worries me. Iran continues to worry me. The Middle East worries me. I hadn't thought about the impact on oil, which will be an impact on gasoline if the Middle East doesn't get a hold of this fast. So these are the kind of reasons why people are putting into place all of these measures to sort of slow this thing down. I don't see them putting them into place to protect people's health, because this does not seem to be putting healthy young or middle-aged people at risk. It puts older people with pre-existing conditions at risk. So the worry for the global market, the worry for supply chains and that kind of stuff is where people mainly are. But right now it's 8:05 in the morning. The park's starting to fill up. I'll turn around this way and you'll see behind me here, over here, quite a few people kind of kicking around in the park, and I need to get to work. I need to go and ride that Tokyo subway train that people worry about me riding. All I do to protect myself against this is I just have a little, there you go, this is what I look like on the train in the morning. I just put up my little kind of scarfy thing here. I know it doesn't offer me much protection, but nothing really does. Masks is a bit of a fallacy as a protective thing. What masks do is they stop people spreading it. But they don't necessarily stop people getting it. But you know, they're also a placebo that make people feel better about things. They're like, oh, I'm wearing a mask, so I'll be fine. But I'm kind of realistic about the situation. I understand what's going on. But I do need to get off and get on that train and go to work, and then hopefully I'll be back again tomorrow to check in and let you know any updates from Tokyo, Japan about what's going on here. Like I said, thanks, Cedar. You have a good day too. Like I said, I want to log this in a way. I think, you know, over time, if I do these videos, you know, for a month or something like that, you too, Starbucks, have a good day, that, you know, we'll see how this thing either develops, you know, in a negative way or a positive way. Later, Hiking, thanks for dropping in. But for now, yeah, time to get to work. You guys have a good day, a safe day, a healthy day, and whatever you're doing, just enjoy it, and don't worry too much about this, guys. You know, it'll do what it does. But if you're in a country that has Wi-Fi and you can watch me going live, then you probably have enough to keep yourself safe and an infrastructure for that. Buy Lysol. Maybe Lysol's the next thing to go. So, all right, guys, take very good care. I will speak to you guys very, very soon. Have a good one. Bye.